Thank you, David. Pleasure to be here.
Well, Fred, we're going to dive right in.
Dump, dive.
We're going to dump.
David, we can do it however we want.
Welcome to Motivational Monday, Conversations with David Ibarra, and today my guest is Fred Ross, retired Chief of Police of Provo, Utah. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here.
Well, let's dive right into our conversation. I'd like you to introduce Fred Ross, the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your early years, education, path to the passion of your career, law enforcement.
Wow, David, that's a tall ask, but easy. Youngest of 5 children. Grew up in Granger, which is now referred to as West Valley. Back in the late 60s, I think it was early 70s, mid 70s that it actually became a city, maybe even late 70s. Grew up there. Parents divorced when I was young. I believe I was 8. Didn't really have much of a relationship with my father. It was 3 older siblings, and my sister's 2 years older than me, myself, and mom. And what a life! Wouldn't ask for anything different. Made me who I am. So
perfect. Tell me about the experience. There's something behind that phrase. I want to dig a little deeper.
Thanks,
wouldn't ask for anything better. Tell me a little more, would you?
You know, it was. There were trying times with it, right? Because going to, as many of us experienced, walking to ball practice, and the friends are driving their parents, right? And I got my cleats tied up and slung over my shoulder, right? Or my basketball shoes, because you only got one pair, right? And you had to make them last for a couple of years if possible.
Yes.
So not having that father figure gave me more of a motivation to work harder. Right, because I didn't have some of the things that some of my friends had and such, and so it just gave me I'd say an innate desire to be the best me and dig and push. And
that was the equal or greater gift of an adversity.
Absolutely,
great,
absolutely,
character building.
Yes,
perfect.
It was really pushed me. Graduated from high school, went on to the community college. Back then, I think it was still called Utah Trade Tech.
Right.
That's dating me, I know.
Right.
And I was working at a motorcycle shop, Plaza Cycle, and a lot of the old Delisle Billings, you probably remember.
Yeah.
A lot of the customers that would come in were officers. They worked second jobs, third jobs, and had a lot of discretionary income, right, to buy their toys. So that's how I started talking to some of them and got to know them. And they said, Fred, you ought to come on a ride along with us sometime. Well, it only took one. Needless to say, there were many more, but it only took one before I knew what I wanted to do.
What was it about that ride along with? Was it a sheriff? Was it the police?
There were several.
That first ride along that you said that was it. What was it that you experienced that caused you to feel that?
I think it was out and amongst the people. They weren't confined to the shop, the parts department, or a desk. They were out and interacting with people, and a couple times I got left in the car and they went on a foot chase. This is late 80s, right? And so I just knew, wow, this is cool, right? And a former high school athlete, you're like, ooh, this is cool. I like this. And I got a sense that they were making a difference.
Perfect. So you decided that law enforcement was what you were going to do. How did you prepare yourself to make it a career, to make it an occupation?
Boy, good question. Sold my worldly goods, a couple snowmobiles that I had. Cost me $1,500 to go into the police academy. I was self-sponsored. And once I graduated, the day I graduated, I was hired by the small little city of South Jordan, 1989.
1989. What was the academy? How long was it? Can you tell me a little bit about the curriculum or how they prepare you? What is it? Is it a 8-week program? How long is it?
I want to say back then, you're really testing the memory. I want to say it was only 12 weeks back then.
Okay.
And we went to the old Calvin Rampton building, and the curriculum was really good. The instructors, they were all officers, come in and teach us, and I really enjoyed it. I felt like I had a knack for it. There was a physical component, right? You had to have PT, old Tom Stanky, former trainer of the Jazz way back when. And that, I was hooked.
Very good. Very good. Now, you may not know this, but my major in the community college was criminology.
Yep.
I tested for the Sacramento Police Department, interviewed, a lot of people got cut. Physical, a lot of people got cut. Yeah. And then got on the wait list and got the call to become a Sacramento police officer. And by that time, I was already doing some things with Marriott and declined, but I came close to joining you.
Well, boy, we'd have some stories. I had that. But that happens back then, right?
Yeah.
Because the process took so long.
Yeah.
Took a long time to
get called.
People, right, that age, 20, 21, you got to get on with your life, get a job, provide, whatever. And so that happens to a lot of people.
It's amazing that in Sacramento, I will never forget, there were 583 applicants.
Yes.
And there was only 22 of us that made it to the end.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was similar.
Very competitive.
You. Yeah.
Yeah, I took my test for Salt Lake City, for example, right? In that was like mid-90s. So I left South Jordan, went to the University of Utah because I found out they gave you 50% off your tuition if you're a full-time employee on campus.
Oh.
Well, no, my mother wasn't affording, she couldn't afford to pay for me to go to school. So I got my associates and said, I'm going to the Hill. And that was a no-brainer. Great experience. Spent 5 years there. When I tested for Salt Lake, it was like 94. There were about 350 of us in the engineering mines auditorium.
Wow.
Very, very competitive.
So you started with the Salt Lake City Police Department.
South Jordan.
And then you went up to the university, and then you tested and was accepted at Salt Lake City.
In 1995,
okay.
Yes.
Tell us about your career there and what you did.
Boy, it went from A to Z. Fortunately, I'd had some time under my belt. I think I started August of 95 in Salt Lake. I say I just coasted my bike down the hill and started working. I'd worked gangs and some narcotics assignments when I was at the university, so I knew a lot of the people in Salt Lake.
Right.
So it was a pretty quick transition for me. My first assignment was, of course, in patrol. Worked the southeast sector of the city. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then I had the chance to be a community-oriented policing officer, which is really where I kind of found a niche. I always was intrigued by business because I didn't have anything, and I saw people did, so I picked their brain and learned. And that was 95 through 97 in Sugar House, and we did some great work out there.
Tell me about who was it within law enforcement? We all run into a mentor or a coach or somebody that really inspires you and it's your go-to person to be revigorated. Who was that with you at the Salt Lake City Police Department?
That's a difficult question, David. Literally, so many that were influential throughout my career and at different times. Right.
Well, give me a name. I may ask you for another one. Who was it that impacted Fred Ross?
Probably the one that gave me the shot to really be who I was Chris Burbank.
Chris Burbank.
Yeah.
Right. Tell me about that. What kind of leader was he to you? What kind of interaction? What made that impactful for you?
It was interesting. And maybe the reason I that one so much comes to mind is he and I didn't have a relationship. Right? He came on to Salt Lake a few years prior to and the only time our paths really crossed, we were doing an assignment in Liberty Park. I think it was the 24th of July fireworks. And he was a bike sergeant at the time. And we were all getting ready to have this briefing prior to our deployment for the night. And I was kind of smoking and joking with a couple guys in the back, and he's up on the steps of the truck trying to get everybody's attention. And all I hear was, "Hey, Ross, can I get your attention?" Ooh. That was my first real interaction with Chief Burbank.
Who would later go on to become the chief of police.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I really didn't know him. And then through transitions and different assignments in the department, then our paths crossed again. He had decided, I forget the year, to create a public relations unit. And what he did was, and smart, I look back at this decision, I'm like, wow. At first I really questioned it. There were 10 of us on the sergeant's list waiting to get promoted. Generally what had happened historically is you stayed in whatever position you were in until you got the call. So if you were in patrol, you could go from being that patrol officer to then being the sergeant of the same group of people.
Right.
I was working in homicide. We get this call, come to the chief's conference room, and 10 of us, right? We're all on the elevator, and we're like, oh, well, he wants to know what we think. Really,
right.
He drops the bombshell, and we're like, what? We're doing what? I'm a homicide detective. I'm feeling good about life, having a lot of fun, learning, and now I'm going to go to this new one. And it was a brilliant move on his part, because you got 10 people, right, we were assigned to the different council districts as well. And sorry, I take that back. That was before the public relations. But he created this unit, right? And two of us were assigned, or one were assigned to the community council districts, and we work with the community. What a way to find people that were motivated to do a good job for some of the more influential people in our community that really wanted to make a difference.
And so what was the core purpose of this effort by Chief Burbank at the time? What did he want? What was he wanting to solve? What was he wanting to create as far as the interaction between community and law enforcement?
Yeah, there had been a group providing that same type of service, but they weren't achieving the results that Chief Burbank was looking for. And so he said, I want 10 of us, right? You attend the community council meetings. You're basically that linkage between that community council, that geographic area, and the police department. And I jumped and I said, I'm going back to Sugar House. I was there from 95 through 97. We did great work. We're recognized nationally. I'm going back. I love that neighborhood.
So this is creating a connection with law enforcement as a partner in creating a safe community in which to live.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Very good. Chief Burbank was always cutting edge, wasn't he?
He made some cutting edge decisions, and a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of he's too. I hear this stuff still today. Oh, he's too liberal. Yeah, you know what? Easy to say. You don't know the man.
Take a moment and picture in your mind igniting your child's journey to lifelong success from an early age. With Yes, Our Kids Can, this vision becomes a reality right from preschool. Don't miss this chance to shape your child's path towards extraordinary success. Enroll in the Yes, Our Kids Can University now and witness the remarkable impact it can have on your child's growth and development. Secure your child's bright future today. Well, it's everybody can have their opinion about an individual, liberal or whatever, but one could take a notion to take a look at some statistics as far as crime rates and everything else. So I don't know why we want to put a label on an individual as liberal or conservative or whatever. I would prefer we would look at unshakable facts, and the fact of the matter is our city was a safer place at that time.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah.
So you begin to progress within the Salt Lake. What happened next?
Yeah. So I'm in that assignment. I get promoted. I go to Liberty Patrol as a patrol sergeant, have a lot of fun. A short time there later, he stands up this public relations unit. And I get asked by Lee Dabrowski, who retired as a deputy chief, went on to be a chief up in Oregon, and is now retiring, living the good life in Oklahoma or Arkansas. And he asked me if I was interested. I said, yeah, let's go try this. So we did it for a good year. During that time, they tasked me with an additional assignment, and that was to kind of watch over the city's police fleet. I kind of like cars, right, and stuff. And it was a chance for me to use a little bit of that business knowledge that I'd attained in college. And so, make a long story short, we saved the police department $1 million the first year.
Wow.
By just watching what we were spending, what we were being charged.
Amazing.
And it's amazing how government doesn't always work that efficiently. So that was
this is a motivational Monday. We keep it positive. So we're going to stay out of politics, and we're going to talk about just the folks that really make something good happen for our community.
And that was, we decided, hey, we need to watch every penny, right? Because the pennies that we weren't watching, right, could have been used in another fashion, another officer or another two officers. So that was, and I did a lot of reporting directly to Chief Burbank, and that was kind of the first real interaction, that and then the public relations piece that I had with him. And so then a short time later, maybe a year later, I get a call and it said, please come to his office. The first thing you do, what did I do? Thinking back,
Exactly.
And he asked me if I'd be interested in being his executive officer, which the chief generally has somebody, rank of sergeant, maybe lieutenant, who basically learns who they are, how the department operates. And I said, of course I would. A short time later, I was selected.
Perfect. And then what did you went on to work and get an unusual assignment, I believe, that had to do with really getting involved with the most vulnerable population of the city, of folks experiencing homelessness.
Yeah.
And you were in charge of that area, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was about? Yeah,
shortly, I get promoted to lieutenant. Shortly later, he selects me as a deputy chief. So now I'm in a lot of the meetings with the other peers, deputy chiefs, and there's a lot of discussion about what's going on Rio Grande Street.
Right.
And the way Chris was a leader, he would throw a lot of things out and assess whether it really stuck with anybody, right? Hey, what was our sales for the first quarter in 2019? Somebody's going to have that answer, but you want to see who does. He did that. That was he. And so, hey, it's dangerous down there. We can't go in there without being 3 or 4 cars deep. And she said, okay, or do we have these people in an interview room? I'd like to know who they are that's threatening our officers. No, we don't. Okay, then I don't want to hear it anymore. I want to hear solutions.
Right.
That rang with me.
Yes.
So I started doing some research, David, and at the time, 2013, 2012, 2013, 25% of Salt Lake City's crime occurred in a 7-square block area of Salt Lake City. I mean, I'm just a new guy in that position. Like, is this correct? Everybody that vetted it, yeah, that's correct, Fred. I said, and we're putting 10% of our resources at best in this. So I brought this to the chief's attention.
Right.
And before I did it, I brought our public relations person up to speed and also brought our financial person up to speed. Hey, look at this. Tell me what you see. They're like,
right.
Whoa. So presented it to Chief Burbank. I regress. I presented it to Burbank, and it was a short time later that he's like, "Oh, do you want to be a deputy chief?" I'm like,
yeah.
Sure. So I got the assignment, and that was we're gonna fix this. And so it takes a lot of resources. So he let me literally handpick the 97, 98 men and women that I felt could do the right job down there. And
so that is putting more resources into that 7-block area that had 25% of the crime. And crime, I bet would have had a good portion of 911 calls as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it was extremely resource heavy, right? But when we were only allocating such a small portion of our resources there regularly. They were constantly coming in and out. Well, you can never tackle a problem if you're coming in and out. You come in, throw a little this on it, and totally reactive. Totally reactive. Right. So it was a task. One of the things that hit me early on being down there, right, as I was, my boots were on the concrete, on the asphalt every day, walking that street. Right. And, a lot of one-handed, one-finger waves to start, and eventually people began to trust us.
Right.
And it became obvious to me.
Now, is a one-finger wave similar to California howdy as in the Beverly Hills?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for that clarification, David. But one thing that I noticed is a lot of these people, they were on Rio Grande, sitting there on the curb, sitting on the streets, from sunup to sundown.
Right.
And they didn't have anything. Right. And I started working as a young man at 12 years old, riding Magna 37 from Granger, Utah, to get off in front of the Crossroads Mall, and then I would hoof it over to the Elks building, I believe it was, and worked as a dishwasher at Cinegrill, 12 years old.
Oh, yes.
And so I knew the value of work. It helped identify who I was.
Yes.
So I started talking to these people. How come you're not working? Oh, this, that, my ID, this and that. And so I had this wild idea. Why don't we help these people, right? Do we just sit and watch them all day and then react if crime occurs or what? Wow. No, let's try to do something for them. And so and I won't say strictly me, right? I had a lot of help. I had some fantastic lieutenants, Gary Trost, and he was phenomenal. And Rich Brady, another phenomenal leader. We started a job-a-day program. UTA donated us a 15-passenger van, very thinking outside the box. And we were working with a couple staffing companies, and we were giving them transportation to work. Well, that was taking 15 people every day off of that block, off of Rio Grande Street. And they were going, St. Vinny's would donate the sack lunches for them for the day, and what a success story.
So we have law enforcement officers that decided to go upstream for causes rather than reacting to a crime being committed and getting one person a job every day.
That was the goal. And
one thing that I'll never forget when I first met you is your compassion for the people that were experiencing this horrific homelessness. You couldn't be worse than that, but you didn't look at them just as a nuisance, as why don't you go somewhere else? You started to want to cure it. Now, there's a story that I've heard that you even would take somebody down yourself to try to get them a job. Employers knew you.
Yeah, it was. I get goosebumps because it was so effective, and it didn't take a whole lot of work, right? Why was a deputy chief doing this? And people asked the chief, "Why are you letting him do this?" Well, the results spoke for themselves, right? Thinking outside the box.
Motivational Monday. This is about, a positive state of mind. It's amazing to me that in my life that you see someone doing something positive outside of the norm, and the negative thought thinkers, why are we doing that? And we have to fight negative to maintain the positiveness. But you shared a story with me a long time ago about a woman experiencing a homelessness, and how I believe you even helped her get money to either get back here from somewhere or go somewhere on a bus to where she needed to be. Do you recall that story?
Miss K, you give me a little emotional.
Miss K.
I think you went. Did you go with me the one time, David?
Yes.
Did we go up? Yeah. Okay. Give me a little emotional thinking about Miss K, and I don't think she's with us anymore.
Right.
I lost contact with Miss K, but yeah, Miss K, what a unique and special individual. She would tell you how the world worked, and she had a great story. But she loved the police, and it was just one of those, good morning, how you doing? And you do that 3 or 4 times to somebody, and then they're like, oh, just because he or she's wearing a uniform doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
And we just started talking, and I realized some of the resources. One of the things that I found, particularly with that Rio Grande, right, was people didn't always want to be there. Some did, right, but a lot of them didn't, and they just got in this spiral, right? Motivational Monday, they took this spiral, but I was going to help them figure out how to get back out of that spiral. And they wanted to get back home. And I was always a firm believer, you're going to be far more successful if we can get you with somebody that you have a tie to, a familial tie particularly.
Yes.
And so I got some help from some people in this city, right? And I said, can you help me? Greyhound is willing to give us 50% off these bus tickets, right? I'll do the legwork. The officers will do the legwork. We can verify, yes, they've got a familial connection, a strong connection. Rather than being in a shelter here, we're not moving our problem someplace else. We know for a fact, and it doesn't take a PhD to say it, right, or prove it. You're going to be more successful if you're with a family member or somebody that you have a bond with than a bunch of strangers in a homeless shelter.
Right.
We know it, and right.
So you help people find their way home.
Yeah, family reunification is what we called it, and very successful.
I recall one time that Miss K got in trouble, lost, maybe had a relapse. She called you.
Yeah, she ended up in the Midwest, and I feel terrible. I forget the name of the city, but she created a bond with the police there.
How did she call you, Fred?
She had established a relationship with a sergeant from this police department, and he reached out to me.
And she had your number.
She still had my number.
Your cell number.
My cell number, yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, when I look at, policing and the definition to protect, to serve, and you got it. It wasn't just to enforce.
No.
And we have a police officer that you did it every day.
Tried.
Every day. And then, again, this is Motivational Monday, but the program got cut from somebody who didn't get it. But you can't cut out wanting to make a difference, Fred. And them cutting that program out after the Chief Burbank left and a new chief came in. Some people are number crunchers, and others are problem solvers. And I know you went on to become the chief of police of Provo, but I have just absolutely have been so impressed with what you are able to do with another group of officers in that area. Is there any message that you would want to leave our audience before we end our conversation about making a difference?
Yeah. Don't think it comes in a certain package, or I'm going to buy this tape and it's going to have all those answers for me, right? It takes 10 failures for that one good success.
Right.
And I probably failed many, many times as an officer in trying to help. I know I did, but I know there's a lot of successes as well. I'm going to just bring up one last one.
Perfect.
Is Brandon Kitchen.
Yes.
Wow, what a success story. I'm not sure where Brandon is now. I send him a birthday message every year via social media.
Tell it.
But
We brought him up. Just
Okay, so
tell him.
I'm trying to make it real quick. I'm down there in that area, and I see this gentleman walking down the street, and odd time, real early in the morning, and he didn't appear dressed. He didn't appear that he belonged there.
Yeah.
And so he happened to walk by our resource center there, and I approached him. I said, "Hey, I'm Deputy Chief Ross. How are you?" He's like, "Oh," make a long story short, he had just got out of a halfway house here. It was on an interstate compact from Colorado because he'd done time in federal prison.
Yeah.
And he was in a desperate state. He contemplated, prior to me interacting with him, throwing a brick through the old post office window down there because the post office is a federal building. He knew it was a federal crime. He'd go back to what he knew.
Right.
Make a long story short, Brandon took advantage of the Job a Day program, and so many other things that were there to offer him. And he got himself back on, even though some people in law enforcement didn't felt like he deserved that chance when he had earned that right to be back in society.
Right.
And everything that he got, they tried to make it difficult for him. He had a lot of people on his side. Successful, ends up having twin boys. Father gets into the welding trade, lives in his truck for a period of time in Wyoming, getting back on his feet, buys a home in Layton. What a success story.
And he shares that story with others when asked.
Yes, he does.
And a good communicator, good person. You know, sometimes the best person to help somebody change is the person that can understand it, not because of the education they got, but because they lived it and went through it.
Sure.
Well, Fred, I'll tell you something. It's been a pleasure having you on our program today.
Brought up a lot of great memories.
You're a guy who makes a difference. I have a book for you. I neglected to bring it right here. I can't believe that. But my new book, Live Ready, Become or Beyond Think and Grow Rich, and I'll give that to you in a moment. And thank you so much for being on our program today.
It's my utmost pleasure. And thank you for all the good that you continue to do day in and day out. It makes a difference in the community.
Thank you, Fred.